On this episode, this monster episode of the Clip Service podcast, it's been a little bit since we've talked to you guys. Thanksgiving and the holidays and whatnot. We got caught up in our own little, in our own little stuff. So we weren't able to come to you earlier, but we're here, guys. We have a ton to talk about. Clippers are looking pretty good right now, I will say. A lot to be happy about. Maybe some Kawhi news coming up. So we're going to break down everything, the good and the bad, from the last week and a half. So without further ado, guys, let's make it happen.
What's up, Clipper Nation? And welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. Please make sure to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, YouTube, and you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Clip Service Pod. I'm Roland. This is my co-host Nick. Let's get right into it.
Let's do it. Oh, there you go. Let's make that a thing. What's up, guys? I'm Nick. And everyone's a winner, baby. That's the truth. That's just, I don't know. What's up, guys? Hope everybody had a great and safe Thanksgiving. Got to spend time with their families. Yes. I got to fill their bellies with turkey, or, for you vegetarians and vegans out there, fill your tummies with corn.
Lettuce. Leaves.
Yeah, just various like leafy greens and stuff. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. But yeah, guys, this is the Clip Service Podcast, and we are pretty happy with the way the team's been playing. I know a lot of people around the Clipper universe are pretty content. This team's got an identity, man, and defensively, The Clippers are really, making their presence felt just pretty much every night. And, you saw, start of the 2-1-3 era, defense was supposed to be the name of the game. It was supposed to be Clamp City. And we never really saw that. You'd see flashes of it, right? And we had personnel where, Patrick Beverley wouldn't take a game off. He would always be, always be a really, tenacious defender. But as a team, we had Kawhi, we had Paul George, but the defense was never able to become a defensive scheme on a team level. And this season, I've really seen that, game in and game out. There's been a couple games where it hasn't looked as crisp, but for the most part, man, the Clippers have been playing really well, and a big part of it has been the defense. I mean, Roland, can you co-sign this or?
No, I fully agree. I think our defense is on another level. I think that's really how we've been winning games. I think the fans and the players recognize that we don't have a superstar on the team, I guess, other than James Harden. So we're not going to be just outscoring or outplaying teams based off talent. So we have to beat teams based off other things. And I think us really locking in on defense really makes the team a favorable or a fan favorite type of team, just because people just like to see a team play hard at the end of the day. And totally. Real basketball fans love a game of defense.
Totally. And especially without, the luxury of having Kawhi, and for several games without Norm, who's been an all-star level player this season. You don't really have the luxury of just having buckets readily available. And so you got to win games on the defensive end. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, where we left off last game, we had covered the Utah game, and we had recorded the podcast right before the Warriors game. Well, guys, the defense showed how potent it was in this game. We're going to start off on the right foot here with this show and talk about the first of the series of games to recap, and that was a 102-199. That would be insane. 102-99 win against the Golden State Warriors at home. This was a fun one. This was the last game that Norman Powell played before he, sat several games with a hamstring injury. But I mean, this game kind of came down to the wire, as it
Big time.
probably should have with how good the Warriors were playing and continue to play up to that point. I think at that point the Warriors might have been second or first in the West. And
10-3.
Steph Curry was playing. Yeah, let's see. You're right, Rolla. You did your homework. Steph Curry was playing at an all-time level in this one. Hit some big shots. Ended up finishing the game with 26, which is, believe it or not, is less than what you expect from him. But Andrew Wiggins had a solid game in this one. Jonathan Kuminga chipped in. Buddy Hield came in and hit a couple big shots. But as far as the Clippers go, it was pretty much Norman Powell putting the team on his back late down the stretch of the game with 23 points. Nobody else really filled it up per se. Amir Coffey had a really good game with 15. James Harden was okay, 12 points, and he did have 16 assists, which is incredible. But yeah, Norman Powell really kind of stole the show in this one. Hit a big three down the stretch, and there were a couple mishaps late in the game, like I'm talking last minute of the game, that allowed the Golden State Warriors to have a chance to tie the game. I think it was either Norm. Yeah, it was Norm that lost the ball. They come the other way, have a chance to tie it. They shoot a three. I think Steph shoots a three, miss, offensive rebound. Steph gets the ball back and tries to pass it cross court to Lindy Waters, who's been a great shooter for them. And Gary Payton, the second, intercepts the pass, thinking it was for him. As we all know, Gary Payton's a fantastic defender, not a great shooter. Throws up a brick. Game over. Clippers win by 3. This was an exciting one, and it was an important one too. The Clippers have done a really good job at handling business against the upper tier teams this season,
definitely.
And this was definitely an example of that. Rolo, what did you like about this one? Most?
Kind of going off of what you were saying, I think that at the end of the game, it really came down to our defense on the last play. I think everyone and their mothers knew that Steph Curry wanted to take that last shot. They're down by 3. Who else is going to try to take the shot, right? I think Steph Curry, triple covered, is a better shooter than Gary Payton. Unfortunately, Steph Curry is a team player and decided to pass the ball off. I think in a playoff setting, Steph Curry's taking that shot every single day and twice on Wednesday. And
twice on Wednesday, huh?
What's the saying? Twice on Sunday?
I think it's Sunday, yeah. But Wednesday's cool, too. Wing Wednesday.
Oh, dude, my light went out.
Oh, there we go. Light went out.
Yeah, so I think that we locked in on defense. Steph Curry wasn't able to get a shot off, and everyone knew that. And then once he passed the ball off, I think we like our chances when anyone else. I mean, Lindy Waters was, like you mentioned, is a pretty good shooter, but
if that shit went to Lindy Waters, because they had some momentum that last possession. If that went to Lindy Waters, I think they might have tied it up.
But the thing is, I would rather Lindy Waters take a shot than Steph Curry.
Of course, of course.
I just think that we played smart defense on that last possession, and I think that's the reason why we won.
Yeah. Azu was a plus 21 in the box, in the plus minus. Only had 8 points, but 17 rebounds. It was fantastic. 2 steals, a block. Can't really say enough about Zoo this season. He really chipped in, kind of took advantage. They didn't have the Warriors didn't have Kevon Looney in this one, so Zoo really was a presence on the glass. It was pretty much, Draymond Green had 9 rebounds, but the second highest rebounder was Brandon Pajemski with 5. So Zoo really kind of dominated the glass in this one and really helped us out. This was a great win. The Clippers kind of kept it rolling too. I think it was the next game against the Magic was the second night of a back-to-back. No, the Golden State game was the second night of a back-to-back. There was a game off in between, or a day off in between, and then the Clippers went to go play the scorching hot Orlando Magic, who I think in the last 16 games have only lost to one team, and that's us. So this was a huge win for the Clippers, the Magic have been great defensively this season, and they've been holding teams below 100 while scoring more than 100. And it seemed like, you know, the the tides turned in this one, and the final score was 104-93. The Clippers held the Magic below 100 while exceeding that number as well. So this was a fantastic game. I think it was kind of just battle of the defenses. It was sloppy offensively, but the Clippers found a way, as they have many times this season, to just gut out a win, especially in crunch time. The Clippers have been pretty good in crunch time so far this season, and this was kind of no exception. James Harden led the team with 24 points. This was a good game from James. Was a plus 18. Didn't have as many assists as we're used to. He was kind of just looking to score in this one, and got to the line, shot 11 free throws, or shot 12 free throws, hit 11 of them, 24 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds. As I said, plus 18. Zoo was great in this one, 17 and 12. This was just a great game, kind of all around for the Clippers, especially on the defensive end. Started out a little bit slow offensively, but again, defense has been the name of the game. Franz Wagner, who's been such a good player this season in Paolo Banchero's absence, only had 14 points, was a minus 18. Kind of cut the head off the snake with that one. Jalen Suggs kept things interesting down the stretch. He's had a hell of a season. Anthony Black was really good in this one. But yeah, I mean, the Clippers took advantage of a team that was missing Paolo, and that relies on their defense and kind of matched that same intensity. I don't know if you had anything particular from this one that stood out to you, Rolla.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. I think our defense won the game for us. It seemed like this was kind of a game where it seemed like James Harden kind of decided to shift his play style a little bit. I believe Norman Powell was out. I was going to say, this game.
This was the first game that Norm was out, so that's part of the reason why James kind of took on more of a
So, I mean, not to spoil the future game. I mean, I guess it's in the past currently as we're recording, but it seems like James Harden really has taken a step forward, which I've been calling for. Seems like it was a change in mentality has happened, and I think it's been a big reason to why we've been playing really well recently, and why we're considered a top team right now. I feel like. That's pretty much it. Overall, good game.
I just completely zoned out. I am so sorry. Guys, I'm back mentally and physically. I co-signed that role. It was a great game. Again, defense, the name of the game. And you saw it again in the following game. And the following game was very special because Rolla and I and a group of friends were able to come through to the game and catch our first game into it. And guys, let me tell you, I mean, obviously from the broadcast and just from seeing pictures and videos that everybody's posted, it looked amazing. As I mentioned before, I had season tickets a couple years ago and was able to take like a hard hat tour of the stadium when it was still just kind of a structure. But this is the first time that I've seen it in person, as it's finished, as it's fully operational. And man, this stadium did not disappoint. We had a great time. Watching the Clippers just absolutely shut the Kings down. Rolla, what was your... I'll go into my experience at Intuit Dome, but I want to hear what you have to say first. Rolla is wearing a hat that he bought that night, too.
So, I mean, the whole experience was amazing. Definitely one of the better stadiums. Might be the best stadium I've been to. Definitely the most futuristic and the overall nicest. I mean, it's the newest stadium in the country right now. So there's just like so much going on that we've never seen before. The rumors are true. There are a ton of bathrooms. There was no way to go. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that kind of drove everyone crazy was the fact that we didn't have to like pay through a person. It was kind of just like automatic through our phones, which we were hoping we wouldn't get charged for some of them, but I ended up getting charged for every single item I took.
Yeah, very diligent
which is kind of crazy because it felt like you could just walk up, grab whatever you want from a fridge, and just walk out. And there was no one to stop you or no one to do anything, and it just like automatically charged you. But yeah, overall a great experience. The seats were amazing, the vibe was amazing, the outside was crazy, the basketball courts and the parking situation and the ease to get to the stadium. Overall, it felt like they thought of everything when they built into a dome. How was
Yeah,
your
I mean,
experience?
everything was, I just piggyback off of what you said. Everything was so seamless, and it was kind of, I was a little bit skeptical about it at first. I was thinking, okay, like maybe it's a little too technology forward. Like I don't necessarily know how I feel about just walking in, grabbing something and being charged, not like having to pay somebody. Like, and the app is still a little bit buggy, horrible. The app has horrible reviews, so that
Yeah,
didn't help my
1.3.
skepticism. Yeah, it was really, really bad. I think a lot of those reviews are from like opening night, and a lot of them are from I think like concert goers and stuff like that haven't actually gone for the game because it really is tailored for the basketball experience first and concerts second. But yeah, man, like I didn't spend more than a minute and a half away from my seat at any given time. Just walked right up. We sat up in the wall, the terrace section of the wall, like up higher. It just felt very intimate. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword because the Clippers, I don't think, have sold out a game so far this season. I think part of that is because of Kawhi. Ticket
Yeah.
prices in the lower area are still a little bit expensive. I would like to see those prices come down. But it was kind of nice because it really showed, like, okay, the people that are there, because it was probably about 85% capacity, and people that actually are there, diehard Clipper fans like Rolla and I and our friends,
Hmm.
and um, it really shows the true fan, and everybody that was there it was loud. Seeing the wall from above was really, really cool, and there's really not a bad seat in the house. We had a great view. The Halo board looks awesome, and the
Yeah.
toilets, like Rolla said, I don't think I spent more than a minute and a half away from my seat. Honestly, if you had to poop, you could probably do it in a timeout, in the span of a timeout,
Yeah.
unless you were really plugged up. But if you had like a normal, if your bowel movements were normal, if you were regular,
Hmm.
you could probably poop in a minute and a half, be back to your seat. Just hopefully you wipe, because I'm
Yeah,
going
yeah.
way too far with this.
Yeah,
Guys,
they
it's
bring
been a
you tissue
work day.
paper,
I'm
but
loopy. But yeah, the toilet situation was great. Didn't have to wait in a line. At Staples Center, that was honestly something that you kind of take for granted. Like the lines at Staples Center are always pretty long, and you're
hmm.
away. If you're really invested in the game, you hear a big play from the bathroom, and you're really bummed. You're like, oh man, what did I miss? Didn't have that experience. The outside court, as Rolla said, was really cool. Just a bunch of Clipper fans playing pickup outside. The Clippers store was stocked, to the brim. Jerseys that you wouldn't be able to get in Staples Center were readily available at the flagship store. It
Hmm.
was just a great experience, and we had such a good time that the game almost came second. I mean, partially
I
because it was such a blowout,
yeah.
but I mean, it was a great game as well. I mean, 104 to 88 against a really potent offense in the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, they've been struggling as of late, but I mean, this is an offense that's given the Clippers trouble time and time again, and the Clippers didn't even let them score 90. Um, so this was great. De'Aaron Fox, we had trouble containing De'Aaron Fox at times, which
Mm,
most defenses in the league do. He ended up putting up
well,
29
I
points, but
disagree. I disagree on that one. I think the game was already put away before he kind of started going off. It was almost like a garbage points type
sure,
of thing.
that's fair.
At least from what I saw. I mean, I think he scored most of his points in like the end of the third quarter, fourth quarter, and kind of just like got to the line and was getting those points there. But I don't think he was playing well at all. I think our defense kind of held him in check. He went 10 of 20. I mean, 1 of 7 from
That's
three. I feel like
50%,
it's
baby. That's
not
50%.
anything to write home about. I mean, 50% is great, but like I said, I feel like most of his buckets came when the Clippers had already
In
put it
garbage
away.
time, yeah.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
you. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like an egalitarian offense for the Clippers in this one. 22 points from James, another solid game um, from him. This was a great game from DJ. Derek Jones had 17 points, was a plus
Hmm.
11, had a steal, had an assist, 4 rebounds, kind of did a little bit of everything. Wasn't hitting from three, but was getting to the rim and kind of scoring at the rim with ease. This was a really good Kevin Porter game. 14 points plus 11 as well, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, all in 26 minutes. Still very cold from the three up to this point. He was 0 for 5, but 7 for 16 from the field. Will take it. 14 points. He looked really kind of poised in this one. A good game from the bench all around. Jordan Miller. That's another thing that I wanted to touch on is the game prior to this one and in this one, Jordan Miller was really starting to get not a ton of time, but you can see that he was starting to be trusted with more minutes. Only played 13 minutes in this one, but had 5 points. I'm loving the fact that Jordan Miller's actually getting some burn. I think the kid is really, really good. I think the best is very much yet to come. I think he's got mad potential. I've compared him to, obviously, he's never going to be probably never going to be the scorer that Shea is, but his player archetype, his size, the way that he likes to score, get to the line, he reminds me a lot of Shea. And I think that there's a lot of untapped potential there. And so he, ended up, like I said, 13 minutes, 5 points. Good game from Jordan Miller. But yeah, good game all around from the Clippers in this one. Held them below 90 while scoring over 100. It was just a good night. It's being at Intuit Dome, watching the Clippers dominate the way they did. This was a really fun one. The game after that was what I tweeted it out, but this was probably the biggest trap game that the Clippers have had this season, potentially, right? You're playing the 76ers without Paul George, without Embiid. It was pretty much just Tyrese Maxey and, the
Jared
rest
McCain.
of... Yeah, Jared McCain, who's been awesome. But, Tyrese Maxey was their only, star-level player. And the Clippers had just come off of a pretty big win against the Kings. So I thought, okay, maybe the Clippers kind of come into this one feeling a little lazy or something like that, and this ends up being a trap game, and that was not the case. The Clippers put the 76ers away the entire time, ended up scoring 125, the most points in the handful of games that we've had recently, and held the 76ers, again, below 100. They ended up finishing with 99. None of the Sixers scored more than 18 points. Jared McCain led the Sixers with 18. Tyrese Maxey had 17. And the Clippers kind of just cruised to the finish line in this one. 23 again from James Harden. Derek Jones with another really, really good game. 18. 16 from Zoo with 12 rebounds. Everybody kind of chipped in this one. Terrence had a really good game with 13. Terrence is starting to find that confidence again, which is something that's really, really cool to see. And again, Jordan Miller, this time playing 23 minutes with 7 points, getting more and more minutes, getting more trust, and we'll touch on it in a minute about Ty's perception of the Jordan Miller minutes and how he views Jordan Miller's role and stuff like that. But it was indicative in this game that he was starting to get more trust with Ty, and he was starting to become a piece in the rotation. Again, Kevin Porter, decent game, 11 points, 5 for 11 from the field. Just a great game all around. Did you have any takeaways from this one, Ro?
Dude, my only takeaway, I'm looking at the box score right now. I didn't even see this, but Kelly Oubre was a minus 40.
Are you kidding?
I think that's one of the worst I've seen in a minute.
Plus minus is so weird because you can be doing the right things, but it's basically based on your unit on the floor and how many points you give up or score, right? So he was probably just on the floor whenever the Clippers were making every run possible. But the thing
is, he's a good defender, and he's usually guarding some of usually the best offensive player. I'm not really sure who he was mainly on in this game.
Minus 40 is tough.
That's tough. But yeah, overall a great team game. I think James Harden stepped it up with the 12 out of 12 free throws. And I think we were able to put this game away early. I think when defense is your identity, that the way it is for the Clippers, like you said, you thought it was going to be a trap game. I think that trap games happen less often because your defense is going to be on point. If you lose a game, it'll be a low scoring game, but at least you can harp on defense. I think everyone in the league is capable of defense. I think that's probably the easiest part of the game to get better at when you're in the NBA. Three-point shooting is difficult. Finishing at the rim or Even increasing your athleticism is pretty difficult. But one thing you should be able to do if you're on the level of an NBA player is play some solid defense. And I think when that is our identity and we go in playing, knowing that at the very minimum we're going to play solid defense, even if everyone misses every single shot they take, we're going to at least lock down on defense. And when that happens, when we're keeping teams to under 100 points, I mean, they're almost guaranteed dubs because we do have the talent. We do have James Harden who can go off whenever he wants to. He can get to the line pretty much whenever he wants to. That's his game. That's what he's known for. I think that these games are going to be almost always dubs. And also, I think we also had that, that added motivation of making Paul George watch and go home a little baby.
Yeah, that's
crying, whining.
That is true. And you bring up a good point. I hadn't really thought of that, but I think that myself, obviously, Rolly, you touched on it, and a lot of Clipper fans this season, there's a higher level of comfort in these games that we should be winning. Obviously, we've had some tough losses this season. The loss against Portland early on in the season, 1-point loss. We've had some losses that we probably should have won. The Timberwolves game that we're going to talk about here in a second. But for the most part, you trust that this team is going to take care of business because their identity is so predicated on defense. And defense is a way that you can really show that you care and show that you want to win and kind of put your imprint on the game. Whereas offense, is so fickle. You can be the best offensive team in the league, but when you don't have it that night, you can lose to the worst team in the game. And you see it, time and time again. I really don't think that there's ever an easy win in the NBA, at least before tip-off. You don't go into. I think it's hard for teams to go into a game and say, "Oh, we're just gonna walk into this win," because teams are so talented now, and players are so talented that you can get outscored by anybody. But conversely, if you have a defensive game and you come to play defensively and you put these teams away on that end, they don't think that they can win. They don't believe that they can win. They feel, okay, we're the inferior team, and that's what happened in this game. We put them away early and didn't give them that spark that in years past with this Clipper team we did so many times where we gave shitty teams that spark and they ended up beating us. So you make a really good point, and I co-sign that for sure. The following game, this game against the 76ers didn't have Norman Powell, which just made that point total so much more impressive. In the following game, we didn't have Norman Powell, and it showed. Granted, we played one of the best teams in the league in the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics ended up putting up 126 to our 94. This was one game where I think our defense failed us a little bit. It wasn't horrible, but if you just take a look at the box score and the team totals, the Celtics, and you saw it throughout the game, the Celtics annihilated the Clippers from the perimeter. And I know they take and make a lot of threes, but they took 51 threes and made 22 of them. And it was throughout the game, it was just another three, another three, another three. The Clippers ended up cutting it to like 11, but for the most part, this game was about a 25 to 30 point game. And it was because the Clippers did fall asleep a little bit on their assignments, especially at the perimeter. There was too many, obviously, like I said, the Celtics take and make a lot of threes, but there were way too many open threes. Peyton Pritchard was hitting too many open threes. Derek White, obviously Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but their role players kind of got too many threes up. This was Kristaps Porzingis' first game back. He helped them out a bit. What did you notice from this game that I haven't said? Or if you want to back off
honestly, there was not much to take away from this game. Like you said, it was just a bad game all around. I think we came in believing and knowing we were the lesser team, and I think that showed. And I mean, I think that the Celtics, and not to say or take anything away from the Clippers, but I do think the Celtics are completely on a different level than the Clippers are at currently.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair to say at all.
And I think the Clippers recognized that and knew that and almost like took the game as like a game off. Like it doesn't matter how hard we play, we're gonna still lose, so we might as well not try, type of thing. So, like I said, there's not much to take away from this one. I think that they just didn't want it, and the Celtics played the way they usually play, and ended up destroying us. That was kind of the end result.
True. I mean, and you kind of saw it too. The Clippers started to ratchet up the defense and really kind of did a admirable job on the starting unit. Um, you know, Jason Tatum only had 20, Derek White 19, Kristaps Porzingis 16, Jaylen Brown 17. The problem was when the bench unit came in. I think that's when the Clippers kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. I mean, you saw it. Peyton Pritchard shot 60% from three on 10 attempts in this
Hmm.
one. Sam Hauser came in, hit three quick ones, was 3 for 3 from three. Um, it was really their bench unit that kind of allowed them to allowed the starters to kind of rest and the lead to balloon, and then the starters came in and just put us away. Um, but yeah, Peyton Pritchard was great in this one. 20 points, like I said, 60% from three. Was getting some clean looks and hit some really tough ones too, as he
Yep.
does. Um, a pretty quiet game for most of the Clipper players. James Harden with 19, 23 from Zoo. I think Zoo had a really good game despite everything. You know, it was 11 for 14 from the field. 14 shots from Zoo is really good to see. But again, it was just too much. Without Norman Powell, this is a tough one to win. And when you let the Celtics bench unit come in and do what they do best, just hit those threes, it's damn near impossible to win without Norm and without James Harden scoring 30 or whatever. So yeah, this was one that I was pissed about as it was happening because it was just so deflating just seeing all those threes go in. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you just shake your head, throw your hands up, and say, okay, they're the better team. And the Clippers did bounce back really well the following game against the Washington Wizards. Um, this was kind of another trap game ish. You know, the Wizards do have some talent. They have the second pick in the draft, Alex Sarr, who is playing well enough to kind of turn some heads. They do have Kyle Kuzma, who can get it going in a hurry. Um, Jordan Poole, the same thing.
Yep.
Bilal Coulibaly. They have the young talent, but Clippers did the same thing that they did against the 76ers, put up a 121 points and held the Washington Wizards to 96. This was a huge game from James Harden. Up to this point, this was, I think, his best game of the season.
Yep.
You kind of saw that vintage Harden come through. 7 for 11 from three. His
Yep.
3-point shot from this game up to right now has really taken a turn for the better.
Hmm.
7 for 11 is awesome. 43 points from James, 3 steals, 7 assists. And again, you see the trade-off, less assists than we're kind of used to seeing from James, but 43 points, you can't complain about that. I mean, the second leading scorer was Zoo with 18. James Harden really took over this game and got to his kill spots and was just hitting everything. So this one was awesome to see from James. The leading scorer for the Wizards was Malcolm Brogdon with 17. Kyle Kuzma had 0 points. I think he might have left the game early. He only played eight
He
eight
did.
minutes. But yeah, I mean, this was just a fantastic game to see, just from the standpoint of, okay, James Harden can still get it going. Like, we still
I
have the
mean,
beard, and
yeah, that's what I've been. I mean, that's what I've been harping on.
you
That's what I've
have.
been wanting to see. I mean, I think there's a reason why we've won the last like 6, 7, 8 games, or I guess we're like six out of like we won the last six out of like the
Yeah,
last
we
eight
had a
games or something like that.
win loss, but we've
Yeah,
been cruising for the
but
most part.
I think James Harden needed to give us this energy and give us this scoring output because I think that is necessary. I mean, this is 43 points and we torched the Wizards. I think we understand that we have that defense. I think we just need to go off on offense, and I think James Harden has really given that to us. I think that, like I said, I think that mentality shift happened when Norm was out, and he realized that there was no one else to kind of carry the team, and he kind of stepped up. And we were talking about his age. Maybe he kind of wants to save himself for later on in the season, but I think that it's necessary now. I think it's smart and beneficial to start off the season hot and I think that he needs to play as hard as he can. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a trap game. Kind of going back to like that defense thing and coming into the game knowing that we're going to play defense. We're keeping. This is our this at this point. This is our fifth game out of 6 games, not excluding that Celtics loss, where we held our opponent to under 100 points. And when that happens and James Harden drops 43 points, it's almost a guaranteed dub. Everyone else just gotta play their role offensively, and it's an easy dub, especially against a team like the Wizards. So yeah, I mean, overall, great job from the Clippers team, and love to see that from James Harden.
Totally. One more thing I want to touch on in this game was another 20-minute game from Jordan Miller. 15 points in 20 minutes, 7 for 10 from the field. And, he didn't even get to the free throw line much, like we're kind of used to seeing from him. I can't remember if it was after this game or if it was after the following game but I'm just going to bring it up because it applies to the next 2 games. But Ty Lue was asked about Jordan Miller, and I think people started to recognize, okay, this guy's playing more. Like, a lot of Clipper fans have been calling for Jordan Miller to play more just based on what they saw in Summer League and in preseason and stuff like that. And Ty Lue said he plays with poise, he plays like a veteran player, and he's earned my trust, which is really, really cool to hear from a coach that, I wouldn't say that he's Doc level with not playing the younger guys, but he typically likes to play his veterans more. And until that, he's a big advocate of, okay, you got to prove it to me, like we're going to use a 10-game sample size. And Jordan Miller has literally done everything he's been asked up to this point in the season. I really can't say that there's been a game where Jordan Miller's like, oh man, he really blew it. Like, I don't like, he wasted his opportunity. Jordan Miller's taken advantage of every opportunity that he's been given. And it's really cool to see Ty Lue come out and say that. And hopefully that continues moving forward, now that Norm's back, and then eventually when Kawhi's back, which we'll touch on in about 5-10 minutes. But yeah, that was really cool to see, and really good to hear from Ty Lue. The Clippers played the Minnesota Timberwolves the following game. Only had 1 day of rest in between the 2 games. The Clippers unfortunately end up taking a 1-point loss to the Timberwolves, 93-92. This was if you just look at the score and look at, what transcended throughout the game, this was very much like a game against the Grizzlies back in 2015, 2016, kind of grit and grind, like both teams below 100, a lot of defense being played by both teams. The Clippers and the Timberwolves are both very good defensively. And that was kind of the one thing that kept the Clippers in this one. The offense wasn't great from the Clippers in this one, but I was saying it throughout the game. The Clippers went down, and they would get a steal and get a big stop, and their steals alone were keeping them in the game. Specifically, 5 steals from James Harden, 2 from Derrick Jones, 1 each for Amir and Chris Dunn. Even Big Zoo got a steal. Like,
yeah,
Terrence Mann with 3 of them. It was a big reason why this wasn't a bigger separation for the Timberwolves. And this game literally came down to the last possession. Like I said, it was kind of just back and forth, back and forth. Nobody from the Timberwolves really had a monster game. Anthony Edwards with 21 to James Harden's 20. But it was a rock fight towards the end of the game. And what it really came down to was, I think the way it played out was Nickeil Alexander-Walker missed a 3. The Clippers were down by 1 at this point, I believe, with like 30 seconds left on the clock. Chris Dunn gets a rebound over Rudy Gobert and sees that there's only a little bit of time left on the clock to try and get the lead. Starts the fast break and unfortunately dribbles the ball or falls out of bounds, leads to a turnover. They get the ball back, and then a lot of the last 20 seconds of this game, the Clippers were basically trying to get a defensive stop, and a lot of people were, calling for a foul. I think you even heard a Clipper fan on the broadcast saying, like, "What is Ty Lue doing? Like, why not foul?" I do think that there was like a couple seconds between the shot clock and the game clock, so I think Ty Lue was just trying to hold for a stop, get the rebound, and get 2 seconds, call timeout to score. But I don't know. I think I would have liked for the Clippers to foul here, but this was a kind of a game of just like errors on the margin. Chris Dunn grabbed the rebound over Rudy Gobert, which is a huge play, but then
Yeah.
turns the ball over. This was kind of a heartbreaking one just for that reason. Like, we could have won the game, and it came down to a couple brutal plays.
Yeah.
But although the Timberwolves, their record has been bad, they have not been good this season. They're a good team, and you kind of expect them to come out competitive. They
Yeah.
kind of give us trouble, and so this was kind of one that, although it was a devastating way to see the game end, it was almost like, what the fuck just happened? Okay, I guess we lost. But you kind of have to just say the Clippers played really well defensively, missed a couple shots, didn't get a rebound, didn't foul, little things like that. But I wasn't too bummed about this loss after about 10, 15 minutes of it ending. I don't know. What did you think, Rolla?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch this full game, but I did see, clips of the end, and yeah, just an unfortunate way to end the game.
It was just so random. Like, it was just weird. Like, it was an
Yeah,
awkward game.
yeah. No, I mean, looking at the numbers, looking at the stats, I mean, it was just a dogfight, honestly. And like you said, the Timberwolves are a good team, even though their record might not show it. I think that they will still end up being a playoff level team at the end of the day. And you know, this is one of those games where I think we could have won if we came out like offensively the way we have previously. But here's another game where we held a team to under 100 points. I think that at the end of the day, it's like I've been saying, our identity is defense, and there's going to be a couple games where offensively we don't match it, and unfortunately that's going to end up in losses, or we'll have close losses like this game. But I'd rather see a loss that's 93-92 than a loss that's 141-35.
Yeah, no, totally. One more thing to touch on in this one. Kevin Porter was great in this one. He kind of led the comeback, led the charge to get us back in the game. Unfortunately, left the game with some sort of like ankle injury. I think he left the game, or it didn't present itself until after the game. But this was the last game that he played before being diagnosed with some sort of ankle sprain. Ty Lue did say that he was going to be out for a while, so I think that just means more opportunity for Jordan Miller, which you can't really be mad about.
Yeah.
Unfortunate because it did come, after a really, really solid game from Kevin Porter, and I'm his biggest critic, but I got to give credit where it's due. 6 for 10 from the field, 17 points. He played well, and we needed it. Although we didn't take the win, we needed every bit of it. So hopefully Kevin Porter can rest up and come back. But I do like the fact that this does present more of an opportunity for Jordan Miller. Obviously, they don't have the same role, and if we need a backup point guard, we still have Bones. I don't have a ton of hope in Bones at this point,
Right.
but there's a chance that we see him more. But good opportunity for Jordan Miller to kind of continue his trust building process with Ty Lue. The Clippers, the next game that we're going to cover, the last game in our recap, is one of my favorite wins of the season. Was a 126-122 win against the Denver Nuggets. The defense wasn't as tough in this one, obviously based on the score. Both teams, over 120. But I mean, it's the Denver Nuggets. They're very potent offense. And this game kind of came down to the fourth. It was a lot of shot making throughout the game, particularly from James Harden. This was another kind of vintage game from James Harden. 39 points, 11 assists. He was 6 for 15 from the three, so he wasn't as efficient from three, but he still had 6 of them. And he looked really aggressive. 13 for 13 from the free throw line, 28 from Norm. Those two were hitting shot after shot after shot, and when the game started getting close, it was kind of contagious. There was like a 3-minute stretch where everybody on the Clippers was hitting threes. Amir hit a big one. Nico was fantastic. It didn't show up on the box score, but he got a huge offensive rebound down the stretch, hit a big three. And one more guy before I talk about James Harden in this one was Terrence Mann's best game of the season, I think. 6 for 7 from the field. He had the biggest offensive rebound of the game, relocated, got the three in the corner, splashed it. That was one of the biggest shots, if not the biggest shot of the game. and it was a three from Terrence Mann. As big Terrence Mann fans, this was awesome to see. He
Mm-hmm.
looked aggressive. He plays well against the Nuggets, for whatever reason. But yeah, really, really good game from Terrence. But really, it was the name of the game was Norm Powell and James Harden. What did you like the most in this one from those two,
Yeah.
Rolo?
You know, James Harden, he's the superstar on our team. This was the first game back for Norm, right?
It was, yeah.
So it was, I mean, the dude came back hot. He didn't lose his touch. He didn't lose anything. 28 points, 9 of 17 from the field, 5 of 8 from three. But kind of going back to James Harden, this is kind of what I've been wanting to see. I mean, even with Norm back, I think that shift in mentality is going to win us these types of games. He, like you said, he seemed very aggressive. Even though he wasn't as efficient from three, I would rather him take 15 threes than, you know, someone else him take 10 or 8 threes and someone else takes a bunch of threes and misses. I just think I just trust him with the ball more and with the shot more than pretty much anyone else on our team. And at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest reason why we win these types of games, because you have to have someone to match Jokic's output. And, you know, Jokic had 28 points, 11 assists, and 14 boards. And James Harden had 39 points, 11 assists, and 9 boards. And when you match someone like Jokic, it comes down to the rest of the team. And I think that our rest of our team is better than the rest of the Nuggets. And I think that's why we won by 4 points at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, and one more thing, Chris Dunn, you know, obviously with a really costly turnover in the game prior, but Chris Dunn was an absolute menace on defense in this one. 4 steals, 2 blocks, got a huge block on Nikola Jokic, kind of on help side. You know, just came out of nowhere, blocked his shot. I think it was in the first half or maybe in the third quarter. But Chris Dunn really bounced back in this one. Obviously, not necessarily on the offensive end with 4 points, but he was absolutely stifling on defense in this one. You know, guys got rid of the ball immediately when they saw that he was coming over to help on them, and that's what you want to see from guys like Dunn and guys like Derek Jones. Just make your impact felt. If your shot's not there, make your impact felt on defense. And Chris Dunn really did that in this one. So shouts out to him. The Clippers, after this game, the Clippers went, I think currently sit at 8-0 in the last 8 games at home. Intuit Dome is becoming, a hard building to play in. You know, obviously with the wall, and with this new, winning streak at home. It's something that you love to see, man. I think that needs to be a big part of the Clippers' identity as well, is just home court advantage, and use this new stadium to your advantage. You know, the wall is a presence, and it's loud, and so that was very apparent in this one as well. Great win. The Clippers, I think, as it stands, currently sit at. Let's take a look real quick. It's because it's in so much flux. Currently sit at 6th. They're a half game above the Phoenix Suns, half game behind the Dallas Mavericks. And I think that every win against, the teams that are around us, the Denver Nuggets, we were tied with them prior to this game. Every win like that matters, because the margin for error is so thin, in terms of standings in the West. Everybody's so bunched up and so close. So this was just an awesome game. I think that's why it was one of my favorites, just because of the implications in the standings. So, I mean, the Clippers had a very good stretch of games, probably better than I thought that they would, given the fact that they were without Norman Powell for about 4 games. But I mean, this team continues to impress me. I think it's odd, because I came into this season thinking, okay, this is not a throwaway year, but we're playing with house money this year. I didn't expect us to make make a run for the championship. That we were either going to be a high playing team or a lower playoff seed. But I mean, we're looking really good, defensively especially. Norm's looking like an all-star. James Harden. Also, one more thing to touch on this Nugget game. James Harden hit a crossover on, I think it was Peyton Watson, hit the J, turned around, did the stir in the pot celebration for the first time that I've seen him do this as a Clipper. I don't know, man. That gets me more hyped than it should. James Harden's kind of loading up. Yeah. If the news is true, from what I've heard around the league, that Kawhi Leonard may be back end of December, beginning of January. He's apparently doing some on the court work, which is a bigger update than we've gotten in a long time.
Hmm.
What do you think the ceiling for this team is, Rolla? Like, I don't want to get ahead of
Dude,
myself.
I'm gonna tell you right now, don't get excited, brother.
Okay,
And
all
I'm just
right.
being real. I'm
No,
just
no,
being
no, no.
real.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I think that if I'm being real, and not me being like pessimistic, I
Sure.
think that Kawhi coming back might completely ruin the chemistry. I
So I
think
think
Kawhi plays a little bit slower. I think he needs the ball in his hands to kind of really, really have an impact. I think he's going to take the ball away a little bit from James Harden, so James Harden is going to be kind of out of rhythm. I feel like the team has a chemistry going in. I think adding a new piece as big as Kawhi is going to kind of throw things off for a lot of our players, and I don't know if we'll be able to recover that chemistry later on in the season. And I think I mean, I think that's been an issue with the Clippers in the past is Kawhi coming in, getting injured over the summer or having surgery over the summer and then coming in like mid-season or later on in the season, kind of throwing off the chemistry a little bit. And I've been saying this for months now. I wouldn't would be ecstatic if Kawhi never wore a Clipper jersey again.
that's
And
so
I don't think he
brutal.
should. I don't think he should wear an NBA jersey again. I don't think he's capable of it.
Okay, Stephen A. Okay.
No, it's Stephen A, bro. I just think it's facts. I mean, look at the history. Look at this year. Look at last year. Look at the year before. Look at any year on the Clippers. This dude can't stay healthy. And if he does, we choke a 3-1 lead. But that's another complaint for another day. But yeah, I mean, I think that the team currently is playing really, really well. I think this is kind of reminiscent of the Lou Will type of team where
2019.
2018 where everyone just like played hard. We knew we were the underdogs going into a lot of the matchups, and I think that is what wins us games. Is people think it's going to be an easy win, and we show them we can lock in on defense, and James Harden can go off the way Lou Will used to go off, and Norm Powell can pour on the points himself, and we're just not a team to just kind of like sleep on. Although I don't think that we're a late, Western Conference level team. I think that as of right now, it's looking like we can make some noise in the playoffs.
So and I completely get the point that you're making, and I think a lot of Clipper fans kind of share the sentiment, or at least the skepticism, where okay, what is this team going to look like when Kawhi comes back? Because in the past, like you said, when a star, whether it be Kawhi or Paul George, come back into the fold, it
Hmm.
kind of mucks things up. Now, I was thinking about that as well. That my rebuttal to that would be, I don't think that the Clippers are going to rush him back early. That's been very apparent. I mean, he's still out in an injury that took place, or swelling that took place, in March. And so, I think that they're going to be really cautious with that. I think when he does come back, he'll be ready, and he physically, like he'll be ready. Now, the difference between years past that we've plugged him or Paul George into the lineup and now is I think that there is a very clear philosophy, team philosophy in place that I haven't seen since Kawhi and Paul George were Clippers, and that's everybody seems to kind of know their role. You saw the problem with the 2-1-3 era is we were so talented, and when we were on, we were on, but there was always a question mark as to who plays what role. I mean, you saw just a microcosm of that is Terrence Mann tenure with the Clippers. Like, he was the starting point guard for a little bit, and then he was on the bench, and he wasn't even playing. He was getting DMPs, and then he was a rotation player off the bench, and then he was starting again at the two. Like, he started a lot of games last season. Like, just his flux or his position and his role alone always being in flux was kind of a microcosm of what I'm talking about. And I think now everybody has a very clear role. Everybody has a very clear job. The team seems to have bought into this defensive identity. This is the best defensive team I've ever seen as a Clipper fan, and I was a fan before Lob
Yeah,
City.
dude. I'm sorry. Just to chime in really quick, I have to disagree, dude. I think that
Holy
a lot of the
shit!
seasons, I think I would say the last 3 seasons I think everyone was fully aware of their roles. I think everyone knew what to do. I think we were we were top four seed
You think
each
Paul
season.
George knew what his role was on this team?
Yes, I do. He said it himself. He said he was the second star on the team.
Yeah, but prior to that, he said that he didn't want to be used as a spot up shooter. He was being used in this way and
Right.
that way, and then he says he wants to
So
be a glue guy, and then he
right.
doesn't.
So I mean, we saw it. What happened? Was it the first season? Tyloo came was the head coach, or the second season where we went to the Western Conference Finals.
Right, but
Would
that
you
was
agree? Would you agree? Had a certain someone been playing, we would have won a championship. Would you agree that everyone knew their roles? Everyone was like ready to win a chip.
I think so, but I think a lot of it boiled down to the guys that were contributing were. I mean, I love Reggie and I love Paul George and I love Terrence Mann, obviously, but all of these guys were playing out of their minds. We haven't seen Terrence Mann have
Right.
the 39-point outing like he's had. We haven't seen Paul George play that
But
good. We've never
I
seen
think it
Reggie
all
Jackson
comes
play
down,
that
like I
well.
said, I think it all comes down to the chemistry. It all comes down to the confidence. We know Terrence Mann is capable of it. We like we've said in the last episodes, we just don't think he has the confidence. When everyone knows their role and everyone is playing the way they know they can play, I think the team is unstoppable. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to someone being injured.
I
And
really
that's
think,
always been the Clippers' problem.
but they were also. I mean, I think that there were too many mouths to feed back in those days, right? The
I don't
last
think so.
year
I
it was
mean,
we
bro,
had
we were
Russ,
obviously
we
the
had
best team that year, though. How can you say there were too many mouths to feed when we were balling? You know what I mean?
okay, but we were balling when Kawhi was still a part of that lineup too.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I'm saying that with Kawhi on the team, right? We had torched that Jazz team. It was up. We were up. We won 4 games in a row. Kawhi got injured in game 6, right? Or
No, no, no,
game
no, no.
5.
No, it was like game 3 or something. Game 4 maybe.
Anyways, he got injured, and I think the team. I forgot who we played first round.
The Dallas Mavericks.
But we played the Dallas Mavericks, and Kawhi went off against Luke. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Kawhi went off. I think everyone recognized that with Kawhi on that team. I think we were the best team in the league. I think we even like odds were in our favor. I think we had the best odds to win the chip that year. And I think Clipper fans, I think the team, I think the coaching staff, I think other teams knew that we were the best team with Kawhi on the floor. I think the second he got injured was pretty much the downfall of the Clippers from that point on.
Okay, so what's your point?
So my point is it's not our problem has never been our role players, has never been our coach. Well, I think a little bit I think a little bit Ty because that's another complaint for another day. But I think that our issue has always come down to injuries of our star players, whether that be Kawhi or Paul George. I think that in this case, Paul George is no longer on the Clippers, and I think that Kawhi is not capable of playing it playoff level basketball for 4 rounds.
But
And
don't you
I think that it doesn't matter what happens. I think we're going to end up in the same position that we've always been at. And they always say, or not they, but there is a famous quote by Einstein who, and I quote, said,
don't mess it
"A
up. Don't mess
sign,
it up.
a sign of insanity is
He doesn't even know it. Sign of insanity is forgetting to how to quote Albert
a
Einstein.
sign of insanity is
Doing
making
the same, yeah,
the same mistake and expecting a new result."
something like that. Yeah, that's the Spark
Yeah,
Note version of it. I know
it's
what you
basically
mean.
doing the same thing and expecting a new result.
I get it, but I don't
And
think this is
it's
the same thing. That's my rebuttal.
why?
Is because the role players that we have on this team. Because if you're using that example, I would say that whoever you put around Kawhi at that point is a role player, right?
Right.
Even Paul George. But the difference is Paul George is at his best when he's commanding the ball, as you saw when Kawhi went out and he took over, and played the best basketball we've seen him play as a Clipper. And You
I
know,
think he was balling before that. We as a team were balling,
he
dude.
was on a different level though when Kawhi went down. Like
Of
when
course,
he was
because he
putting
has
the
the ball in his hands
sure.
more. That's different.
But I'm saying we don't, aside from Norm, because I mean, James doesn't need. You saw it last season. You saw it at the beginning of this season. James doesn't need the ball in his hands necessarily to be successful. I mean, with Kawhi comes back, I do think that James and Norm are still for a while are still our number one options on offense. But having a guy like Kawhi that calls, he has so much more gravity than like
So would you say that Kawhi won't be the number one player on the team, or they won't work to
I don't
make
think
him the
he'll
number
be
one?
I don't think he'll be the number one scoring option until the playoffs come around.
Really?
Yes.
So how do you think chemistry wise we can go from, for example, Norm being the number one scorer on the team and just switch to Kawhi? How would we do that?
When the playoffs come around?
Yeah, chemistry wise.
I think by the time that the playoffs come around, because I'm assuming that Kawhi will have been playing for a couple months up to that point.
Okay.
I think
So when Norm runs the same plays or expects the balls at the end of games as he has been do as like you're saying, he's going to be the number one scoring option as he has done at that point. It would be the entire season. Suddenly in the playoffs, he doesn't get the ball at the end of the games. Suddenly in the playoffs, he just doesn't get the ball in his hands as much. You don't think
because
that's going to throw off how he plays?
I don't think so. I mean, if you look at how Norm generates a lot of his 3-point shots, a lot of them are catch and shoot. A lot of them are off assists from James or
But
off
dude, but
assists in the short
this
roll
basketball players need to have a rhythm. They need
I
to
think
see
he'll
the
get
ball
there.
go in. You think that every single time he's just gonna? I mean, he's gonna get
I mean,
limited
it's kind
chances
of
to
looked
shoot.
that way, dude. Like Norm was out for 4 games and comes back in and is hitting everything. Like
Yeah, but because he's a top 2, top 2 in scoring option.
I think
Whether
that
it's James Harden is taking more shots than he is, it doesn't matter. He's still gonna get his touches. If you add another Kawhi who's taking 20 plus shots on top of James Harden doing his thing, and Norm goes from taking 20 shots to taking 5, 8 shots. I don't think that's. I mean, I just don't think he's going to be able to play on the same level.
that's fair. That's a fair thing to be skeptical about. I just think to abridge the conversation, I think that subtracting a player like Paul George that more so than Norm needs the ball in his hands, needs to shoot off the dribble. Paul George is a rhythm player. He scores the most points when he's breaking down the defense, one on one. By subtracting a player like that and basically adding a player like Kawhi, who I think can be slotted into a specific not obviously I wouldn't call him a role player, but he has more of a specialized skill set. He loves to get to his kill shots, mid range, and play defense. Kind of subtracting a more ball dominant guy that's a rhythm scorer with a guy that yes, Kawhi's a rhythm scorer, but he's effective on defense, and he's able to. I don't think that he needs all these touches to be successful. He's very efficient. He's one of the most efficient scorers the game's ever seen, and I just think that it bodes better for this team. Like he's easier to slot in to a team without Paul George than a team with Paul George. Like, I don't know. That's the way I see it. I think that this team is a little bit more tailor made because I think the one thing that this team is missing in the losses that they take are, oh man, I wish that this guy shot more shots. But you can't expect that from guys like Terrence, and you can't expect that from guys like Amir. And you're bringing in a guy that you can expect to take those shots. I don't know. I think it's more of a seamless fit, personally. Now, with that being said, I'm still not of the belief that we're a championship team. But I do think that we will be happily surprised after, the first couple games of Kawhi back. We'll be happily surprised with how well the fit is based on what we've seen with the type of players that we have around these guys. That's my 2 cents. We'll revisit this. Hopefully at the end of December or the beginning of January when Kawhi comes back. But yeah, I mean, this is it's a very good debate to have because it does mean that Kawhi is on the, we expect Kawhi to come back, and
Yeah.
Kawhi is on the horizon. A return is on the horizon. So, Clipper fans, let us know what you guys think about this riveting conversation, because I think that there's points to both sides, and I think that at the end of the day, it does mean that eventually we expect to get Kawhi back. So that's a good thing. Um, yeah, Rolla, is there anything? Oh wait, you know what? We didn't even do previews.
Previews?
Let's just knock
Yeah,
this
we can
out
just
in
run through
about
them real
5 minutes. Um, thank you guys for bearing with us, staying with us all this time. I know it's a longer episode, but we did have a lot of ground to cover, and I
quick.
do think that this is a good conversation to have. But the next game that we have tomorrow at 7:30 is going to be against the Portland Trailblazers. We did take, as I said up top, an unfortunate loss to the Trailblazers earlier on in the
Yeah.
season by one. The implications to this game in terms of the play-in or the in-season tournament, the NBA Cup, Emirates Cup, whatever they call it. I think I saw that if the Clippers take at least a 24 point win, they can still make the finals, the NBA Cup
At
finals
least.
as a wild card. Yeah, they would need to win by at least 24 points, I think, to
Damn.
have a chance.
Yeah, that's
I
tough.
don't care too much about the NBA
Yeah,
Cup,
me
to be
neither.
perfectly honest with you. I think it's a money grab. It's literally just a regular season game, but there's financial implications to it, and
Yeah.
it's played in Abu Dhabi, whatever, I don't know. But with that being said, I'm just going to treat this like a regular season game. This is a game that we need to win.
Yeah.
We need to create some separation from the Suns and the Nuggets and the Lakers and teams like that. And this would be a great game to take advantage of that, because the following game is against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I do think that we'll come prepared for this one. This one is going to be in Minnesota, which is going to be tough. Oh, wait, no. The next 3 games are at Intuit. Completely
Yeah,
disregard
this
what
one's
I
a
said.
back-to-back.
It is going to be a back-to-back. So even more reason for the Clippers to handle business against Portland. Obviously the talent gap is pretty significant. So handle business against Portland. Get ready to play Minnesota. I think the Clippers will be have a little extra motivation in this one based on how the last game went, a game that we could have won. And then on Sunday we play the Houston Rockets, who are absolutely scorching hot right now.
Yeah.
Fred VanVleet's playing really well. Jalen Green's awesome. Alperen Şengün is Jokic light. And then they got the Terror Twins coming off the bench, Amin Thompson and Tari Eason. Tari Eason being one of my favorite young players in the league. Both of those guys can play both sides of the ball really well. So I think that's the one that we need to really lock in for. I do think that we win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Hopefully we win against the Portland Trailblazers. But the Houston game, with how they've been playing, I believe they're second in the West right now. They play both sides of the ball really hard. That's one we really got to lock in for. We took back-to-back losses against Houston no more than a couple weeks ago. I would love to see a bounce back in this one and take the first win against this really, really good Houston team. Rolla, did you have any takeaways from the next 3 games?
I mean, these are 3 teams that we lost. We've lost all 3. I guess Houston, we played 2 games back-to-back. But, we've lost all 3 previous matchups with these teams. I think that we got to come in with a chip on our shoulder for these next 3 games and, try to come out with wins here.
Yeah, I completely agree. As I said before, the standings are pretty close. As it stands right now, the Clippers sit, the Clippers sit 2.5 games behind the Houston Rockets, who are currently at second. In between that, it's, you have Memphis, Golden State, and the Mavericks, who are a half game ahead of us. Below us, the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns are a half game tied for 7th, a half game behind the Clippers. So, a three straight wins would really bode well for the Clippers standings, just with how close everything is. Create some separation from the play-in situation, and let's handle business. I would love to see 2 out of 3. That's my soft prediction. Again, I'm not going to be making a lot of predictions because I do believe in jinx in the podcast jinx. But if I'm going to make a soft prediction,
2 out of 3 also.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. Let's make it a coin flip with who we lose to. But I do think we can go. I do think we can go 2 and 3 in this one. Would love to see it. Would love to see the Clippers kind of avoid falling into the play-in situation, the play-in situation. But yeah, Rolla, did you have anything else before we get on out of here?
Nope, that's it. Would love to see 3 wins, but I'm
Got to be
predicting two out of
realistic,
three.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very fair. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know, as I said, it was a longer episode, but we had a lot to cover. A lot of
Yep.
good things happening for this Clippers team. Let's hope that the Clippers defense keeps a rolling in the next 3 games and beyond. Here's to hoping Kawhi comes back, as soon as realistic and comes back, you know, healthy and ready to go. In the meantime, Norman Powell, the moment that All-Star votes become live, I am going to be voting him into the All-Star game because
Him
he
and Zoo,
deserves
dude.
it. Him and Zoo. They've both played out of their minds. James Harden's starting to cook, starting to stir the pot a little bit. Good things happening for the Clippers, and hopefully good things to come. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As Rolla said up top, you can catch us on Twitter, catch us on Instagram, get at us, listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and watch us on YouTube. As always, thank you guys so much, and go Clippers.
Let's go, Clips.